way for sure. Hello. Welcome. We don't currently have anyone on Zoom, but if someone watches it now or watches it later, welcome. Today is March 11th. We just finished Rosh Chodesh Adar Beit. And so today we merit, as the second month of Adar, I merit to have everyone who finished davening who wants to join the learning afterwards join us. So we're starting Perek Chaf, Dira B'Tachtonim, a dwelling place on earth. בפרקים האחרונים התבהרה משמעותה של תקופה ב' בימות המשיח, כאשר תתגלה אמת השם לעולם שאין עוד מלבדו כפשוטו. So in the previous chapters we were talking about what is the meaning in the days of Mashiach. There'll be two periods. Yasha, пожалуйста, мы сейчас учимся. In the second day of Mashiach there'll be two periods. One and in the first period we explained long before, and the last few chapters focus on the second period of Mashiach, when it'll be revealed to the whole world that there is none but God. There is only Hashem. Kipshuto, in a simple meaning. והוזכר שבזה תתגשם כוונת הבריאה, שכלשון חז"ל נתהווה הקדוש ברוך הוא להיות לו דירה בתחתונים. But when all the world will recognize that there is none but God, right? The whole purpose of the godly creation was, as the sages say, God wanted to have a dwelling place on the lower worlds. שהכוונה להתגלות אלוקית שתהיה לעתיד לבוא, כאשר הקדוש ברוך הוא ידור עמנו בעולם הזה הגשמי כאדם בדירתו הפרטית. What does it mean? It means that godly revelation will be in the world to come when God will live in this world in the same way that we live in our apartment. In comfort, it'll be his place. This is where he'll feel the most comfortable. והנה כל המשלים שבתורה הם תכלית הדיוק. ובפרט על פי המבואר בתורת החסידות, שכאשר יש בתורה משל ונמשל, המשל הגשמי אינו להשתלשלות והשתקפות של הנמשל הרוחני. So all the allegories in the Torah are very exact, especially and this detail is also talked about in the Torah of Chassidut, that when in the Torah there is an allegory and allegorical mashal v'nimshal, the physical allegory is nothing but a reflection of the spiritual thing that it's an allegory for. לפיכך כל פרטיו של הנמשל הרוחני נמצאים במשל הגשמי. ובהתבוננות בפרטיו של המשל הגשמי אנחנו יכולים ללמוד על הנמשל הרוחני. And because of this, because it's just a reflection, by focusing on the physical allegory and its details, we can learn about the thing it's representing up high in heaven. וכך גם מנוגע לדרך חז"ל הנ"ל, שהמשילו את היחס של הקדוש ברוך הוא לבריאתו ליחס של אדם ודירתו. So, when the sages use the allegory of God's creation to the way a person treats his own apartment, his own dwelling place. שהתאווה של האדם הגשמי לדירה הגשמית נשתלשלה מתאוותו של אדם העליון לדירה התוכנה. Why does a person have a desire normally to have his own place, to have his own house, to have his own apartment? Right? This desire that we have naturally on earth is similar to the desire of the supernal being, the Adam Elyon, to have a dwelling place below. לפיכך, מהתבוננות בשמות עמוקה של תאוותו של האדם התחתון לדירה, אנחנו נלמוד את המשמעות העמוקה של תאוותו של האדם העליון. So since we know that the lower, we humans, like to have our own place, like to have an apartment, like to have a place where we feel comfortable, that it's ours, right? Similarly, we can learn from this the meaning of the desire of the supernal being above. וגישה כזו אנחנו יכולים למצוא כבר בתורתו של האדמו"ר הזקן עצמו. We can find this in the Torah of the Alter Rebbe. לאחרי זה אצל רבותינו סיים עליהם כמו, and also by the other Rebbes of Chabad who took over from him. ובאופן מיוחד בדברי האדמו"ר הרש"ב, בהמשך המאמרים שנאמר עדו בשנת תרס"ו. And especially by the Rebbe Rashab, based on the Maimarim that he said in the year Tafresh, that really deals in depth around these kind of ideas. In this chapter, we're going to try to focus and get what is the main points of these things about the dwelling place on earth. There's a deep connection between the dwelling place and the dweller, right? בהקדם נקודה כללית בתורת החסידות, כשם שגוף האדם אינו רק מציאות גשמית, אלא הוא כלי למהות הרוחנית של נפשו, כך גם שאר צרכי האדם כמזון, לבוש ובית, שלכאורה אינם אלא צרכי הגוף גשמי, יש להם משמעות רוחנית הקשורה עם נפשו. So we have to preface a general point that is explained in Chassidut. Just like the body is not just a physical reality, but it's an actual vessel for the spiritual soul. Our body is the car for the soul, right? Similarly, the rest of the needs of the man, which are food, clothing, a house, which seemingly are just desires of the physical body, they have something spiritual connected with the soul. So the fact that we desire food, that we need clothing, we need a home, is not just spiritual. It's not just physical. There's a spiritual concept to it. So in the simple way, food is the closest to man. Well, you are what you eat, right? If you eat good kosher meat that is very good ashgacha, good everything, then that's what you. And if chas v'shalom the other way, then that's who you are, right? If that affects it, it literally becomes your flesh and blood. Clothing is the next thing. It's certainly close to the person. It's external, but it's done for his measurement. My size is very different than my kid's size, very different than someone else's size. Each person's clothes is specific to that person. The bayit or home, or the house, seemingly is further. It's your house, but it's not nearly as close as your clothes. And also as far as quality. If we talk about the quality of the levels, which is domem, inanimate, tzomeach, growing, chai, living, medaber, speaking, mazon האדם ומחלקים אחרים של הצומח והחי, שראויים לעלות למעלת המדבר ולהיות חלק ממנו. The food that a person eats are the best parts of the plants and the animals that are worthy to go up to the level of medaber. When we eat an animal or when we eat a plant, we elevate that lower level to be part of the speaking animal who can speak words of Torah. הלבושים הם החלקים הפתוחים ביותר שבצומח וחי ושאינם ראויים להיות חלק מהאדם עצמו. אך ראויים להיות קרובים אליו וצמודים אליו. Next we have the clothes. Clothes are generally from the lowest part of the plants, the parts of the plants that are not eaten, right? Nowadays there's synthetics, which is another, you could say even also domem, from like things that are completely not even living. But in general, they're not worthy to be part of a person. But they're worthy to be very close to him, to be, right on him, right? צמודים לגופו, זה הבית, אם הוא דירת ארעי, הוא אכן יכול להיות גם מקרשים ויריות הבאים מצומח וחי. If it's a temporary dwelling place, it can even be from wood and some curtains some curtains and some wooden boards that come from plants or living animals. However, a permanent dwelling place, a permanent dwelling place is mostly created from stone or ashes, except in California, where our permanent dwelling places are still made from wood. But, you think this is made from stone, Rabbi Peel?
I thought you the wall.
No, I mean, if you build a wall.
You know, wall on the freeway.
Okay, so fine. But the vast majority of in any case, the vast majority of houses throughout history and in general permanent places, even in the United States, in most places are made from stone because stone is more permanent than wood, right? But it's also the lowest level. It's inanimate. However, when you want to look at the spiritual meaning of food, clothing, and house, you see a reverse picture. So there's a rule we talked about before, which is the end is wedged in the beginning and the beginning and the end, right? It's like a circle. So the soul's this need for food is for what? To strengthen the power of the intellect and the emotion in your soul. Which are the revealed power, right? I eat, so now I have the energy to speak, I have the energy to learn Torah, I have the energy to, put on tefillin, do the mitzvot. And these are revealed. And they're details that come from the soul. However, the spiritual need of a person in clothing, Rabbi Yochanan Kari Lemani Mechbeduta. כיוון שהלבושים הם הנותנים לאדם את הכבוד הבסיסי של אדם כאשר הוא אדם, the clothes give us honor, right? That's how we're different than animals in a way. We are clothed, right? They bring us honor. The basic honor of a man that is a man comes from the fact that you're wearing clothes.
Nice.
Clothes in general. It's like saying it's nice when you have a car. Sure, it's even nicer if you have a Ferrari, but it's still nice if you have a Toyota, right? So it's already nice. You have a car, right? Or it's already nice. You have something, right? So it's already nice. You have clothes. Sure, it should be nice clothes, etc. But in general, the difference between man and all other animals, an animal doesn't have any clothes and he doesn't feel embarrassed about it. Most human beings, if they don't have clothes, they feel embarrassed, and they have clothes, so they don't feel embarrassed. And many halachot it says someone who's naked, he doesn't have shame. Without clothing, there's no honor and there's no embarrassment. This is a part of the soul. This connects to the soul itself. So this is also understood about the apartment of the man, the dwelling place of the person. It is also not just a physical need. There is a spiritual meaning and a need of the soul. And it's deeper than the spiritual need of clothing, right? We said clothing is your honor, and it's the difference between man and an animal. What about the house? In the words of the Rebbe Rashab, the essence of the person lives in his dwelling place. Not just your body lives in the dwelling place, but also your soul. Not your external part of your soul. The essence and the inner part of your soul lives in your house. If we try to understand, what does he mean? אפשר לראות זאת בכך שהאדם נמצא בדירת ארעי, בית מלון עם דרך משל, אף שיש שם כל הצרכים הגשמיים וגם כל התנאים הנדרשים למנוחת הנפש, אף על פי כן אין מרגיש בבית, ואינו נמצא במצב של מנוחה אמיתית. How can we understand this? Understand, when a person is in a dwelling place, a hotel, for example, like our friend Elchanan here, even though he has everything he physically needs, there's a very comfortable bed, probably some water, maybe coffee, depending on the niceness, everything you need to feel comfortable, but you don't feel at home. Not kosher, that's a different problem. Let's say that they had something kosher even. Coffee's kosher either way. Black coffee is not a problem. That's okay. We can't help you then. But it doesn't feel like home. Even if you had your wife there, even if you're with family, even if you have kosher food, it's still a temporary place. It doesn't feel.
You have a good time.
You don't feel like you're home. You don't feel like you're at home, right? That's the idea. It's not a real state of rest, right? It's not yours, yeah. Only when you are in your permanent dwelling place, then it's really your home and you feel a real rest. Every person who doesn't own some land is not a person.
you live in the 21st floor.
You're nobody. You're nobody. You in the penthouse in New York.
That's what it says, right?
How is?
Adam she'en lo kaka Adam. Yeah,
if the
but if you
person
think about it, I can tell you. So I have a beautiful apartment. It's a 2-bedroom apartment, and I rent it. And still, in some way, it doesn't feel the same way of home as if I owned the place that was smaller and less beautiful. Why? Because I am not in full control of the place, right?
And also, if you invest in it, tomorrow they could take it from you.
Exactly. No, you mean that? Yeah.
You won't invest in it, something that's not yours.
Ай, ну, мы же занимаемся классом.
Вся в 9 утра, не вечер.
Ну так, слушай, я что, знаю, в Майами у нас другое время. У нас другое время.
Сейчас во время класса. секунду. היינו, אף אם יש לו כל צרכיו, הגשמי אוכלים, ויש לו גם, ויש לו גם, мы сейчас занимаемся.
Не, что не.
Мы сейчас в середине урока.
Ну так сколько еще делаю?
Еще 40 минут.
Ну я через 20 минут подъеду.
Не надо, да.
Да, хоть кофе после.
היינו, אף אם יש לו את כל צרכיו, הגשמי והרוחניים, ויש לו גם קורת גג להגן עליו, אך אין לו מקום פרטי משלו בעולם. Even if you have everything you need, right? You're in a kosher hotel, right? You're in you have everything.
When you go to jail,
You have a house, but you don't feel private. It's not a private place. You don't have your own private place that you can do something with. You feel in JLI. You're still in a hotel. You still can't really. Okay. So you're not a person. You're not really an Eno Adam. It's not really your own personal place in the world.
Does it say your personal place, or if you don't own the land?
אין לו מקום פרטי משלו בעולם. So the first one, it says about land, because כל אדם שאין לו קרקע אינו אדם. Any person who doesn't own land is not really like a person.
So
that
there are
was
two-
the sages,
There
yeah.
are two statements there.
There are two different statements, right?
Okay.
So the sages says you have to land ownership, but then you go in a different way. A separate statement is even if you have a house and a roof, but it's a temporary dwelling place, it's not your personal place.
If you rent it.
Yes, it's not. So he's not a person if he doesn't have a personal place. That's more of, let's say, a person. I had a friend who for 6 months lived in hotels because his house was like destroyed, and the insurance would just give him different hotels while they were remodeling. Says for 6 months I lived there. I had full access, etc. But I couldn't. It didn't feel like home. I never felt like I was home. Right? So the Rebbe Rashab continues. הואיל והדירה מהווה מקום מנוחה לעצם הנפש, לפיכך גם הרצון של האדם לדירה מתייחס לעצם הנפש. The Rebbe Rashab says, since we said this, and a dwelling place is a place for your soul to rest, for the essence of your soul to rest. So the desire of a man for a dwelling place then connects to the essence of your soul. It's a very deep desire that was within your soul. In your own part, it connects to you being a human, to you being a person, to having your own. However, since the essence of your soul is concealed and is not necessarily recognized by the person, it's super above knowledge, so to speak, or what?
Conscience.
Yeah, it's super conscious. Yeah, above subconscious, I guess. Subconscious. So a person is not aware necessarily even to this deep desire that he has for his own home as much as he is for clothes or food, right? When I'm hungry, I know I want food. If I'm outside and it's really cold, I want a jacket, right? Or it's raining, right? This is you want to be. It would be the Shon Kochoin, the exact words of the Rebbe Rashab. Adam שנתעורר ברצון להיות לו בית, הנה גם כל התעוררות זו היה לו רצון לבית, אלא שהנעלם כל כך עד שגם הוא בעצמו לא ידע מזה כלל. So if a person wakes up and suddenly he really wants to own a house, he wants to have a house, a dwelling place, even before he woke up and realized he really wants this, he had this desire, but the desire was concealed until he himself did not know that he really wants it. לכל אדם יהיה מי שיהיה, יש לו בעצם רצון לבית. והוא מוסכם ומוחלט בנפשו בהנחה מוחלט מאוד. Every single person, whoever he is, in his essence, desires a home, a dwelling place. And it's completely understood and accepted in his soul. It's very obvious to the soul. And this decision, this need. And this decision is the decision of the soul itself. Why? Because the soul knows that any person who doesn't have land, any person who doesn't own land, doesn't have land, is not really a person. So the soul wants you to be a person, wants to be Adam. To be an Adam, you have to own land. This is why the soul desires to have land and a house, a dwelling place, that this touches to the complete reality of him being a person, a real. In a different mimer, he continues this line of thinking. This desire for a dwelling place is talking about the essence of the soul that is above reason. Again, it's not a reason necessarily thing. You just have this desire. It's higher than reason. This is why this desire is irrelevant. It doesn't matter technical reasons, right? I want to own a house. I don't have money for a house. I still want it. Right? You could say, but it's not logical. You don't have the money for it. You can't afford it. You can't be many, but you still want it, right?
Why is not logical?
Well, it's not logical to design. It's impractical. Sorry.
Well, it doesn't matter. There are many things.
Well, that's the
people
point.
dream about.
That's the point. The point is that since it's a desire, logically you could say, well, I should only want what I can afford. What can I do? What can I do? But illogically or super logically, or desires are above logic, right? Exactly. So that's what
it says. It's something internal that is not affected by external forces.
Right, including logic, right? That is exactly it. Even if your reason and your mind says, no, why do I need this? Renting is so much better. Yet there is something that desires to own your own house, right? I was recently sent some articles by, I think, my stepfather, who says that economically, if you look at it over a 30-year period, if you were to, instead of paying for a mortgage, go to the stock market, you'll end up with more money. Yes. If you, instead of investing in real estate, invest in the stock market, the same amount. Assuming you invest in an index fund and assuming that you bought a house over 30 years, the index fund would do much better. So if you were to rent and pay the amount to rent, and still I want a house, with all that in mind, I still desire to own my own house, right? Or a car, right? Exactly. Car, house, etc.
No, house, this is.
House is different, yeah.
It's permanent.
Yeah.
No. Subconsciously, a person needs a house.
Car, for me, a car, I
A
assume is
woman
temporary anyway.
Subconsciously needs jewelry.
Right.
Except.
So this is why this is something that is complete in your soul. In the words of the Rebbe Rashab in Taf Reish Samach Lav, כשרוצה האדם לבנות בניין ולדור בו, הרי יש בזה התגלות הרצון שרוצה בבניין הבית, כי צריך דירה וכלים לשכון שם. כמו שצריך בראשון. When a person wants to build a house and dwell in it, it has a revelation of the desire that he wants the building of the house. Why? Because he needs a dwelling place and a vessel to dwell in. Just like he needs clothes and he needs food, that's the same kind of a need that he has for it. But anyways, it's not really his whole essence, literally. This is only what he wants from the side of the reason that he needs to have a dwelling place. Just like you want to clothe yourself in clothes to feel comfortable, to feel like a person, right? If a person can't afford a shirt, or is wearing can't afford clothes, then yeah, he feels like he's not Similarly, you need to have a dwelling place.
Yeah, so we didn't notice.
The enzi kavatz mutual. But still, it's not really the ikar of his essence. It's not the most important part of your essence. Yes, you need clothes. Yes, you need food, and yes, you need a dwelling place. It's not the most important part of your essence. רב בחינת הפנימיות והעצמיות הוא מה שמתענג בכל עצמותו ממש בפנימיות והלם נפשו בהיכל הבדירה הזו. However, it's an inner part of the essence, is that you get pleasure from your whole essence, literally, in the inner part, in the concealed part of your soul, with this dwelling place. By having your own dwelling place, you can make ואין לו שום טעם, כלל הזה, למה הרי הוא מתענג כל כך בדירה, שזו תענוג עצמי פשוט. There's no reason why you really enjoy having your own place, why it's such a pleasure to have your own house, your own place. But it's a pleasure. There's a internal self pleasure that is simple. והראיה, שגם אם הסקר יתנגד לזה עם פנימיות הרצון לא יחלש כלל על ידי זה, וירצה גם אז בבית פנימיות נפשו בלי שום חילוק כלל. And you could the proof of that is, even if your mind and the reason is against it, the inner part of the desire will not be weakened at all by it, and will want it. As why? Because the inner part of your desire has nothing to do with reason. Logic is not doesn't compute. It comes from your essence. The essence of your soul desires something. It's far higher and supernal and irrelevant to logic, right? From everything we just learned, that was the allegory. Now let's go to the thing it alleges to. We said, the sages said, God desired to have a dwelling place in the lower world. And we said every detail there is in the physical allegory, there is in the allegorical. The person is done in the image of God. So thus, all the attributes and levels that are in a person below come down from the fact that that is how it is in the supernal man, so to speak, above. Just like by the lower man, by us humans, there is a division between the body of the soul and the essence of the soul, right? So the soul within it can be divided into the body of the soul and the essence of the soul. So in the supernal being, there's the spirit of Atzilut, highest world of creation, before creation. There's Atzilut, Bria, Etzir, Asiya, as we talked about before, which are called the body of the king. The spirit and Atzilut are the body of the king, and many might have seen a picture of the human body with the sphere each imposed over different parts. Right? It's a very famous Kabbalistic picture. וישנו האלוקי, ישנו האור האלוקי, שבתוכן, שנחשב כנשמתא דגופה. And then there's the godly light that is within the sphere, that is considered like the soul of the body, so to speak. ובאור האלוקי עצמו דרגה למעלה מדרגה, עד לעצמותו יתברך שלמעלה מכל גדר ותואר. And when we're talking about the godly light itself, goes level higher than level, up until the essence of God itself that shines the light, that is above any limitation or description. So this place where the up above, where the light shines from the essence of God, is parallel, so to speak, to the essence of the soul of the man below, right? The essence of Hashem, the essence of our soul. So, just like having your own dwelling place for a person is really a place of rest for the essence of your soul. Similarly, in the dwelling place of the man above. This world is meant to be a dwelling place for the essence of God. The God would feel that he comes here to feel rested, to feel relaxed, to feel like this is his home. לפיכך, גם הרצון והתאווה לדירה בתחתונים מתייחס לעצמותו יתברך ממש שלמעלה מגדרי השכל כנ"ל. This is why the desire for a dwelling place in the lower world is talking about the essence of God, literally above, that is above reason. Again, going into the exact words of the Rebbe Rashab. אלא העניין הוא, כמו שכתוב במדרש על פסוק, שוקף עמודי 6, שוקף זה עולם שנשתוקק הקדוש ברוך הוא לבראתו כולי, שזהו מצד התשוקה לבד. So it's written in the Medrash, there's a pasuk, his shok is the shok, no, it's the it's like the lower part of the leg, I guess, or it's his legs are columns of fire. Let's just make it legs to make it simpler. It's not the right word. Pulke, yeah, but that doesn't. I don't know if pulke helps this. I cannot think of the word in English properly, but yeah, the legs are pillars of shesh. Sorry, pillars of shesh. What is this? Meaning the legs are. This is the world that God desired to create. It's from the desire. The world is the thing that God desired. It's from the side of desire. It's not that God needs this or has to have it for some completion. No, it's just a desire. God had a desire to create the world, and so he did. We don't know why God desired this. God desired it. There's no understanding. So the purpose of this is to extend the revelation of the essence of the infinite light above in the lower world. Right? So the infinite light, which comes infinite, literally means from infinity, from God. It's a light that is infinite, and it cannot normally be contained. It's in our vessel, and so God constricted the whole world, and God wants the infinite light to be revealed down below, where normally it's so concealed we don't even see any godly light in a natural way. And on this, the sages said, God had a desire to have a dwelling place in the lower world. It wasn't because of some need or logical reason. It came because God had a desire. And a desire is, as we said, above reason and knowledge. Oifetaiva is kain kasha. Al tava and kushia, you don't ask questions about a desire, right? So just like the dwelling place of a person, which was the allegory, which is
explain what this means. Sometimes even is not good for you.
yeah,
You still be fine.
yeah, of course.
Not like logical understand.
No, of course. The desire, there's no questions about desire. Why do you desire something?
Desire is because you understand it's good for you because this.
But that's not that's not really a real desire. That's a your logic tells you should have this, right? So
because sometimes desire against logic.
exactly, desire is irrelevant.
Why?
Logic is irrelevant to a desire. If the only reason you want to, right, cigarettes is an example, but
no, cigarettes. This is.
Let me put it like this: if I desire, listen, if you desire to have a kale salad because you know it's healthy, do you really desire it? No, kale salad. Salad chasa, it's very healthy. Okay. But if you desire it because you know it's healthy and it's very good for you,
this is logical.
This is logical. But most people will say, I desire kale, but I desire chocolate, even though I know it's not healthy for me, or I desire desserts or ice cream or other things, even though it's not healthy for me. So that desire, it might be not reasonable. I know it's bad for me, but I still desire it. It doesn't have to have a reason or logic, right? There's plenty of people who desire things that are actually bad for them, right? Many people who smoke know that it's poisonous, know that it's horrible for them.
Smoke is different.
Why is it different?
Because the addiction. So not because you
Addiction can be desired.
Sugar is an addiction in that way. A lot of things are an
The
addiction.
even you don't have desire, you need it. It's like when you have a headache, you need Tylenol. This different.
You need Tylenol. You don't desire Tylenol. Right?
That's
No,
different.
It's not
No,
exactly.
No.
100%. This is why cigarette is not your desire. You just need it.
No, it's
That's
desire.
not, no. So most
Addiction.
people, again, you could say it's an addiction, but at the same time, there's plenty of people who, let's say, smoke occasionally, right? That they don't smoke a pack a day, but they'll smoke 1 or 2 cigarettes a week. This is clearly not someone who's addicted to the same level, and yet they desire a cigarette, even though it's bad for them, right? There's people who are not allowed to have sweets who have sweets. There's plenty of things where people desire, right?
Or milk.
Or milk if you're lactose intolerant, right? Anyway, so the whole idea.
Sugar. Diabetes.
So there's no, like we said, there's no requirement or a logical reason for desire. Why? Because it was desire, meaning the fact that it is a desire means that it's above reason or knowledge. Right? Like we said before. So just like a person desires the dwelling place, even if it's above reason or knowledge, and God also desires it. God desires that the light that is the inner essence of the light of Ein Sof, of the Infinite One, that is above any kind of revelation, should shine in this world. And we could add possibly on this. And on this is the Rebbe Wolf adding, just like in our world, most houses are built from inanimate object, which is the most physical and the lowest level that there is in the world. Just like that, the dwelling place of the supernal man is in the lowest world, the world of our world, the world of Asiya. The lowest level of all the world, right? God can think himself infinite amount of times to go from this immense light until we can actually have a world where there's so many curtains that you cannot see the light at all at this point. והנה בכמה מקומות והרב בתמונות המשל שהמשלו בנביאים במדרשי חז"ל את הקשר של ישראל והקדוש ברוך הוא לקשר של איש ואישה. And in several places the Rebbe explains the meaning of an allegory that was talked about in the prophets and in the Medrash, where our sages say the connection of the Jewish people and God are like a connection of a man and a woman. שלמות הקשר ביניהם הוא כאשר הם מחוברים יחד ומתאחדים ביניהם עד שהיו בשר אחד. The complete connection between a man and a woman and between God and the Jewish people are when they are connected together and unite between them until they are one flesh. So, in one reality. כך בנמשל, הקשר האמיתי בין ישראל והקודש הבריחו הוא כאשר מתגלה שהם אחד ממש. So just like by a man and a woman, when they're literally one flesh, when they're, united in the intimate act, that's when they're one and one reality. The connection between God and the Jewish people, when it reveals that we're really one reality, we and God are one reality. We're one. That is the same kind of level of flesh. They were like one flesh by a man and a woman, and we one with God completely. Ve'ulai, and perhaps, he says perhaps that means that is him bringing now his opinion above what we have learned from the Rebbe's. Perhaps we can unite this mashal of this allegory of the unity of man and woman with the allegory that we just talked about, a dwelling place on earth. כאדם הדר בדירתו הפרטית, וכמו באדם הגשמי, הרי הוא נושא אישה ומכניס אותה לדירתו, ושם הוא מתאחד איתה למציאות אחד. And we're talking about the physical man, and he marries a woman and he brings her to his dwelling place. There he unites with her into one reality. The sages said, what is a man's house? That's his wife. The woman is the mainstay of the home. The most important part of your house is your wife. So now let's take that back to the allegory of the supernal man. We know in the world to come, we're going to be married. Right now we're in an engagement period, a long engagement period with God, but the world to come is going to be a marriage, nisuin, and a unity of God and the Jewish people. The whole world will be a dwelling place for the Jewish people and God. And we're going to live together in complete unity with God. This is the ikar, this is the main point of the dwelling place on earth. The famous words in the Torah, and I dwelled within them, built for me a temple and I dwell within them. What does it mean within them? The famous explanation, within each and every one of them, right? So, next section, the first meaning of the mitzvah and the Torah. So now that we explained the so now that we explain what's the purpose of creation, according to the Rebbe Rashab, he goes and talks about what's the purpose of Torah and mitzvot. The Alter Rebbe famous says, through mitzvot, we complete the purpose to build God a dwelling place on earth. ומזה מובן שכם שהרצון לדירה בתחתונים מתייחס לעצמותו יתברך, כך גם תרי"ג המצוות מתייחסות לעצמותו יתברך. So just like the desire for a dwelling place on earth is related to God's essence, blessed essence, so too are the 613 commandments connected to his essence. ובהקדם לאלובה מספרי קבלה וחסידות וכולי, שהמצוות מתייחסות לספירת המלכות, ולמעלה מזה הן בזעיר אנפין, ולמעלה מזה הן בכתר. So it's written in books of Kabbalah Chassidut, the mitzvot are related to the sphere of Malchut, kingship. And higher than that, they're Bezir Anpin in the emotional. And higher than that, the mitzvot are connected to the Ketcher, to the crown. The Ken, Daigale, Malam Dagai. And so it goes higher and higher and higher, level upon level. Why is a mitzvah in the attribute of kingship? Because a mitzvah is a command that is given to us by our king, right? Our king, God, tells us what to do. It's an attribute of kingship to do their exera, a decree. And the sages, in fact, called it the decree of the king. A mitzvot were the decree of the king. When the mitzvot are in the attribute of the ketch, the crown, the allegory is that this is the desire of the strength of the desire. It's like a king that desired that it would be so and so. He didn't even tell us what to do yet. He just desired this, right? The crown is the idea of the desire. The mitzvot is God tells us, I want you to do so and so. I command you to do so and so. The keter, when the mitzvot are in the level of keter, is the internal desire of the commandments. This is why the sages also called mitzvot the desire of God. The Rebbe Rashab explains, what we just talked about are the way mitzvot are in the seder ishtashlut, in the way, in the order of constriction from above to below as the world is created. In their first reality, they're connected to the essence of God himself. ובשונו הידוע, in the famous words, כל המצוות מתייחסות אל העצמות. All the mitzvot are connected to the essence of God. והמשל, על זה בא באדם למטה, הוא הנהגה עצמי של נגלה העולם. What is the allegory we can use in the lower man in us? It's the self-pleasure that is never revealed. כמאמר חז"ל, המצוות נחת רוח לפניי, שאמרתי ונעשה עושי. It said about the mitzvot, I get nachat ruach, I get pleasure of the spirit before me because I said and my desire was done. I bring this example many times. I have little children. When you're a little child, you ask him to do something small and you see him do it. And it doesn't have to be something very big. Say a bracha for a small child, and my child stops before eating the lollipop and says, Baruch atah l'olam shakol yom dvaro. I get some part of pleasure from it. When my child listens, I get some pleasure. How much more so is God who sees us, his children, doing mitzvot, learning Torah right now. Nachat ruach hu inyan ta'anug. The idea of nachat ruach, rest of your soul, so to speak. The literal translation, nachat ruach, is the restfulness of your soul, is the idea of pleasure. It's pleasure that is revealed by fulfilling the desire. As the Rebbe Rashab said in his mimer. So this pleasure and desire, they both come from one root in the essence of the soul. Pleasure and desire both come from one source. It's not like they're separate. They literally come from one root, one source, literally. What's the difference? Pleasure is internal, desire is external. That's why your pleasure is internal, you feel the pleasure inside. But your desire, you let known, you act upon the world based on your desire. So now we understand the attribute of the supernal desire in the mitzvot. The desire with them is an internal desire. That's what it's the essence of the infinite light. Blessed be he. Then there is no reason for it at all, not the level of a reason that is concealed, and not the level of a pleasure that is revealed. This mitzvah that God has. So even though in the concealed essence, so to speak, there is pleasure with this desire, it's an internal pleasure within God, not an external, but the desire is external, as we said, similar. This what is mean, nachat ruach before me, lefanai dafka, before me specifically. In the level of the inner essence of the infinite light. Blessed be. And in the revealed way, mitzvot were not given for pleasure. To be because there's no reason for desire. Even though pleasure comes from the same place, when you have a desire, you're not doing the desire because of the pleasure necessarily. You're doing it because it's a supernal thing. However, when what you desire happens, there is pleasure that comes from it, internal pleasure. But it's I guess I said the words of the Rebbe Rashab a little bit before he said it. But this pleasure is an internal pleasure. It's a self-pleasure. So what is revealed is only the desire, not the pleasure. But in the world to come,
I desire because I have pleasure.
No. I know people who, again, you're going to say it's addiction, who desire a cigarette because it's not. It's a desire.
It's a need.
It's not a need. Do you know how we know it's not a need? Because the same person who desires a cigarette and smokes a pack a day can then go and not smoke for a 3-day Yom Tov on Rosh Hashanah.
He will still have desire.
He'll desire it, but he won't do it. So
That
after
doesn't
3
matter.
days,
You're talking about willpower, whatever. This
No, desire
Desire,
has something to do with willpower, naturally.
but some
Desire-
people, so the point is desire.
Listen,
If he needs it, then he
But
can't go. There are
desire
many people I
because
know.
that's
But so if you
Well,
go,
of course.
if this person,
Said
can,
no.
no,
What-
he doesn't get pleasure. Many people who smoke don't get pleasure. They don't like
Well,
it.
there's no pleasure.
Some,
Well, come on.
fact, some do. Some hate it and do it because
Well,
of the, yeah.
even they had it.
No, that's true. In any case, but the idea is so the desire is external. For anyone else, in any case, the pleasure is internal. I cannot feel someone pleasure from smoking because to me it's a disgusting thing, and I can't.
No,
To
but
me,
that-
like
that's-
I don't. But I can understand the
no,
desire.
no,
They have a desire for it,
Of
but I
course,
cannot understand the pleasure.
Of course.
Part
But
of-
you don't
part of
know
the
this
care-
pleasure. How can you understand?
But even pleasure I understand.
Come on.
I don't know my pleasure from eating something might be different than yours, right?
Naturally.
Naturally, right? So, which is why different people like different foods, obviously,
Absolutely.
right?
Hello, but I'll pick up all of it. Why you have desire because satisfied the pleasure.
No, that's exactly what it's the Rebbe Rashab. So the Rebbe Rashab is trying to say no. The two are connected, but your desire is not because of the pleasure. Your desire is above the logic that you will have pleasure from it. Because pleasure means that your desire is because of the pleasure. It's a no. The two are connected, but the desire is itself separate, and it's not because if you desire something because you know it'll give you pleasure, then there is logic to it.
No,
However, you can desire
but-
something.
But you could desire.
I desire to. Okay,
because
let's
you
go.
have pleasure
I desire.
subconsciously
No.
sometimes.
I desire to own a house. I know there's going to be a big pain. I'll have to fix it. I have to repair it. I'll have to do all these other things. A woman desires to have children. It's illogical if you think about it. She goes through 9 months. My wife just gave birth. Every time after my wife gives birth, and after every woman gives birth, what does she say? I'm never doing this again. How could I do this? It's so much pain, so much hard work. Sometimes passes, and suddenly the woman desires a child. Does she get pleasure from this child? Eventually, sure. But the thing she desires is to make the child. That desire is not because she's going to have the pleasure. Right? The desire is a desire. It's supernal. You could say, oh, but she knows that later on this child's going to give her nachat later on in life. But that's
I don't know. Sometimes a person could be desire, pleasure.
Я вовремя.
Зачем ты соседи?
А как я мне сказал?
Выруби.
Я вырублю.
we should 5 minutes. Sure.
Всё,
Выруби.
So
вырублю.
Masha Babi. So right now, we don't have a revelation of God's pleasure. We do not know when God feels pleasure. We don't recognize. We don't understand it. We cannot. We only get a revelation of the external of the desire. In the future, it'll be revealed the internal pleasure that is within the desire of doing mitzvot. Right now, we know God wants the commandments. We don't understand or see or feel the pleasure He gets from us doing it. So in the future, this pleasure, self-pleasure that God is getting from our mitzvot, is going to be revealed. As it is in the essence of the souls of the Jewish people, which literally fulfill the Torah and mitzvot. And it continues in the Maimers and explains about this in the Torah. It's famously said, what is the Torah? The Torah is God's wisdom. It's the Chokhmah in the world of Atzilut. The wisdom in the highest world of Atzilut. However, since through the Torah specifically can be completed this supernal pleasure of God having a dwelling place on earth, that can only be done through learning the Torah and doing the mitzvot, right? So really, the essence of the Torah, the root of the Torah is in the essence of God, that is much higher than only Chokhmah Vatzil. Chokhmah of the wisdom of Atzilus is a high level, but it's certainly not as high as the level of Bishon Sham, in the words of the Rebbe Rashab continuing this mimer that we're going through in this. Ukmo al derech mashal adam rotzeh livnot bayit. As we said about the allegory of a person who wants to build a house, sheyesh lo ta'anug b'binyan habayit. He gets pleasure from building the house. Which is similar to the pleasure in the essence of the house. When a person is building his own house, I guess, he gets so much pleasure. He's building the house in the way he wants. He gets the rooms just right. For those of us in America, it's a remodel. There's nothing as exciting. My wife has already thought about remodels of houses that we're going to have in the future. We don't have a house, but we've already thought about how she wants to remodel the kitchen. It's an exciting to have the house built the way you want. There's some kind of a pleasure from it. Because the wisdom and the pleasure do have a connection. So before it seemed like I said it didn't. So the Rebbe Rashab corrects, no, there is a connection between the wisdom and the pleasure. And what do they call together? Tam, reason. Tam ve'oneg v'tam ve'etzah. So you have the tam ve'oneg v'tam ve'etzah. So you have the reason and the pleasure, and the reason and the advice. Let me see if I can understand this. And the inner part of the wisdom is the inner part of the essence of the pleasure, literally. And this is the inner part of the Ein Sof. This mimer of the Rebbe Rashab is giving me difficulties. I will say honestly, I'm trying to fully understand and comprehend it, but this one is this is deep. We'll finish this section and we'll stop, and we'll probably review again this section next week, God willing. Maybe I'll try to find some extra explanations so I can understand it better. So we have to understand above the mitzvot are the internal desire. We said this before. And within the internal desire, you have the internal self-pleasure that you feel yourself. So now all we see is the desire of God, but in the future we'll get revelation of the pleasure of God. And thank you. No, almost. The Chokhmah, the Torah, the wisdom of Torah is the level of the internal pleasure. So what is revealed now is only the wisdom and the reason. In the future, we'll understand the pleasure. It'll be revealed. And this is part of what we say. What are the tastes of the Torah that will be revealed in the future? It's not just going to be a reason. We're not going to understand the Torah in just a deeper intellectual way, but we're going to understand the simple pleasure of the Torah, which is something that we cannot truly understand today. Whew. All right. Thank you guys for joining. This is the end of the Seif. We're going to continue next week. This one is definitely a more in-depth, going into one of deep Maimarim of the Rebbe Rashab. And
they're trying to understand connections between desire to have a Besamid.
it's trying to. The idea here is the Rebbe Rashab and the Rebbe often said that they said you can learn from the allegory used by our sages. The allegories are very exact. So if our sages use an allegory, we can use the allegory by learning about the details of what it means for us to want something. We can try to understand God and how He wants something, because us wanting something, the allegory is the details of how we want something will help us understand how God wants it. So
probably won't.
Well, that's what we're trying to get. It'll less, but it'll get us something. You're right.
maybe something, but the
Hey,
whole
Shkoch,
point is that we can't,